Welcome to the Earthworks Podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hi, everybody. This is Joel Simmons for another Earthworks Podcast. Today I have Mr. Matt Sumpter from Congressional Country Club, and we met. Did we meet at Kinloch? I think we must have met at Kinloch, right?
Yeah.
Many years ago. Matt and I have known each other for more years than either one of us probably want to admit. You've been running around working with our friend Pete Went for a number of years. So you went from Ford Plantation to Kinloch, which is one of my favorite golf courses, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but it was just such a cool thing that was done there with all the bent grass. And then up to Woodmont, and then you did the construction at Congressional. So we'll talk about all of that. But I don't know that I know the answer to this question, but where'd you go to school?
Purdue.
Oh, I did know that. Of course I knew that.
Yeah.
Sorry. I couldn't. It's a long, warm day. It's like the first day of the summer right now. Last 2 days it's been 88. Yesterday was 88, and I think today we're going to probably push 80. You are in the heart of the Mid-Atlantic, so you've been there. When did you get to Woodloch? What year did you get up there?
I think we were there. I think I started 2014.
So you've been in the Washington D.C. area for a while.
Yeah.
So you really never have had a career. I mean, you started down in Ford Plantation in Georgia, and I assume that was a lot of warm season grass, right?
Yeah.
And then you moved up to Richmond, all bent grass. If anybody doesn't know Kinloch, it was was it officially the first all bent grass golf course in the Richmond area?
I think
it was.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which is nuts, needless to say, but who else but Pete Went could pull that off? And of course, you had to manage it. He was off doing whatever he was doing, and left you guys to take care of a whole bent grass course in truly the armpit of the world in terms of weather. And then you move up to Washington D.C. So you've never grown grass anywhere nice or easy or.
Well, no, I have. I did internships I did one at Medina, Victoria National.
Oh, okay, so you've tasted it in an internship, but that's
yeah. I've tasted the Great Lake wind coming off.
Yes, exactly.
Cools everything down 10 degrees. Yeah. That's awesome.
So you leave an internship and you go into the armpit and you stay there. I mean, what does that say about you, dude?
Yeah, I like the action.
Yeah, you like to be. Yeah, you're a masochist, is what it says. So you went to school for this? I mean, I don't even know some of these, and I've known you for a long time. So let's talk about this. Why did you get into this silly business?
Oh, I got into it because I loved playing golf.
Good.
And I grew up in a really small farm town, and the town I'm from, on a good year, I think it's 400. And wow. I grew up working on my neighbor's farm and loved farming. My parents didn't have a farm, so it's really hard to get into farming if it's not generational. So I did the next best thing. I did my two passions, farming and golf, and found this job. And
so you're grass farming.
Yeah, grass farming, and it's fun. We harvest every day.
Yes, exactly. You got a harvester out there rolling around every morning.
Yeah, it's fun, and I just wish we could take it to market. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that's how I got into it. I really loved it. I really loved being outdoors. The game of golf. I think it's just a genuine sport that you can play for your entire life, and that's what's fun.
It's funny you say that, because my father used to always tell me when I was a kid, Dad, how come you don't play golf? He goes, oh, I'm way too young to play golf. I mean, his whole thing was you got to be in the 80s or 90s to play golf.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I learned to swim at a country club, and that's where my grandparents, I remember going to the country club where I grew up on, and my grandfather was one of the first members, and his painting is on the wall. And I hadn't been there for forever. And then I went to visit the superintendent. It was Sunny Hannah Country Club up in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And I walked down the hallway, and there's my grandfather. I'm like, oh, I know that guy. It's kind of funny. It was but my father never played golf ever, ever in his life. And and nor did my uncle. And I don't even know if my other grandfather ever played golf. My mother's father was a golfer. or at least was a country club person, but he golfed. But you know, if you don't grow up in it, it's kind of one of those sports that it's, you got to really. I mean, that's why it's so important to get kids into this sport.
Oh, think about where I'm from. I'm from middle of nowhere,
That's
Indiana.
where I was going. Yeah,
Golf is raw. Like it's just a very, it's just there's no polish to the golf courses there, and it's just
yeah,
raw golf. And the rough is whatever it is that day. Uh,
right.
and the fairways are the same. That's the best they can do. And the private clubs, there's not very many of them in the Midwest. And apparently, farmers love to play golf because I tell you, there were I think 6 golf courses within 45 minutes of where I lived.
Really, I was just going to ask you that. Was it looked down upon because they was taking farmland away, or
No,
was
no, no. It was
farmers
fun.
actually wanted to play golf in your
Yeah,
neighborhood?
yeah. That was what they did in the summer. So the crops were planted, and you'd have guys out there every day playing. And if some of the guys had lake houses in Wisconsin, they'd want to go up there. But for the most part, the guys that had families, they wanted to stay local. That's what they did. They played golf. Everyone played golf, and uh, it's something they could do with the kids and a great family activity. And
Yeah.
we had decent sized golf team. I went to a really small high school, but a lot of people played golf.
You were
And
on the golf team?
yeah, I was on the golf team and I loved it. Played too much in high school, I gotta say. I'd practice in the morning before school started, and then go to our team practice after school, go home, eat dinner, and then go back to the golf course after that and be out
How were
until
you
dark.
getting around? Were they schlepping you? Were they driving you?
So my sister played, and so I would ride with her. I'd go actually practice with the high school girls team in the morning because that was my
How
ride.
convenient.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I did practice with them. I became their team manager, and then
You
uh,
became their
yeah, well, I
manager.
was there, and so I thought, I might as well help out. And then that turned into going to their golf matches, and I'd play with the golf coach, and then he started coaching the boys, and then I got into that, and uh, I played a lot of golf in high school. I played a lot of golf.
I don't know that I don't know any of this. I've known you, like I said,
Yeah,
for how long? Do you play
yeah,
much anymore?
I do. I do. I actually, my favorite thing to do is I feel like I've graduated from keeping score. I just play out of pure enjoyment. I love the game. I
Yeah,
love, trying to hit those 3 good shots every round, and
right.
you hit one pure shot, and my God, you're hooked. It's
That's all you need, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know that you were supposed to keep score, and I can't count that high. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
just stopped keeping score years ago.
yeah,
But yeah, it's funny because one of the things that I talk to a lot of folks about as I travel and on the podcast is when you're looking for assistance, the question always comes up, do you like to play golf?
yeah,
And consistently, what I hear from superintendents is that I am absolutely out to look for that kid that wants to play golf, that wants to be on the golf course, that loves the game of golf because they become the best assistants and employees. And your story here is perfect to where your career has moved you to. You know,
yeah. I have a gentleman on staff, or I mean, one of my assistants, and I think he's a 3.8 handicap.
wow.
Yeah,
Does
yeah.
that mean he's playing golf all the time while he should be working, or
He
does that ever
played.
make you concerned? I
No,
might be a little concerned with that.
I actually encourage it. I'm like, look,
Yeah, you should.
let's get the work done. And he plays with members. He plays just about every day after work, weekends. Um, I'm at a club where you have to play golf. You have to. This is a true players club, and they play golf here. They are serious about golf.
So
And
you play with members as part of the
yeah,
process, if you will.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that it's simple as I'll put my clubs in my cart and I'll go jump around groups, play a hole with a group, and people love it.
Oh,
People,
that's cool. I
and then
didn't know
a
that.
few times a year I'll go out with, if I'm here, we set up in the morning, and if my wife and daughter are out doing something, I'll jump in on a group and play 9 holes, and then be here for the afternoon to hand water. But that's fun. That's fun to
Yeah.
do. I need to play more, but it's really important to at least be able to play the game, because you will get people, and they're very good players, and they'll want your opinion on something, and you just build credibility with that.
Well, you're also setting up a course for the players. I mean, if you don't
Yeah,
know, where the shots are going and how the shots are playing, I mean, I always found that difficult. I mean, I know many superintendents that were never players, and I get it. And some of them are phenomenal grass growers, no questions asked. But I'd always, I just always thought, man, it's got to be difficult if you don't really know the
yeah,
game that you're there to set up, a field for a game. And if
yeah,
you don't know the game, I mean, how do you do that on a
yeah,
place like a golf course? I mean, it's not like you're managing a football field that's just a rectangle. You're managing, truly a artistic, sporting environment.
yeah. It helps to play golf, and it depends where you work. It totally
Yeah.
depends. There may be some places where it doesn't matter if you play or not. It's just you put out a great product, and I'm not saying that you have to play golf to be successful. I'm just saying
No, I agree with that, obviously, but still, it just seems to make sense if you're gonna be setting up a golf course for playing, and to be able to know the shots and to know where the landing zones are and how the greens are rolling. And I mean, if you don't play, it's hard to know that in the same light as your members who you're doing this for. It
yeah.
just kind of makes sense. Have you been able to play at all the properties that you've worked? I mean, have you always been able to play, or I mean, was it always encouraged? I know you worked for Pete for three properties. Pete went, but were you able to play Kinlock and Woodlock and well, Congressional? You were doing a lot of lifting and tearing and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Uh, I played well. I played the I played the new Blue Course once, and then the following week I no longer worked there, so I
Yeah,
had
I
to
was gonna say
stop.
you moved really quickly, but
I,
you did get one in. Good, that's
yeah,
good.
I got one. It was so much fun, and every time I go over there, I just get chills, and my
It's
heart will
beautiful.
beat
Yeah.
differently just being over there. And because I put a lot of uh put a lot of work into it, and it's
Yeah.
cool to see, and it's cool to see done and people appreciate it. That's the
And
point.
you were the lead assistant on the construction project at
So I
Congressional.
was the Blue Course Superintendent.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I apologize. Yes, of
Uh,
course. But you were the lead guy. You were the first guy. I mean, under Pete, obviously, but you were really the guy running that course
yeah, the
during the
Blue.
construction.
Yeah, and then I had four great assistants.
Right.
They, it was everyone had to be on. Everyone had to be on as soon as you walk through the door, and we did amazing things. And during COVID,
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
with a
that's
smaller
right.
staff, that's my
Right.
COVID story, and that's how I stayed busy. Uh, but it was definitely a amazing experience, and I think we all came out of that better. And I don't know if we all had different experiences, of course, of how it molded us, but
Yeah.
uh, it was definitely something for me, at least. Some things always go sideways in the superintendent world, but just
No.
just the ability to remain calm,
Yeah.
and you've seen almost everything, and uh, in the end, it's going to be okay. And the one thing that I learned was it was important to be the guy that remained calm and work through the solutions. And well, can we do this? What do you think about doing this? I mean, coming up with plans and working together and being humble too.
Yeah.
That those things really humble you in a renovation, and especially something that size. And working together and finding middle ground. But it all worked. And once again, it's about building great teams, and that's probably number one. It's building a great team and maintaining that great team. It's like soil. You got to
Yes, it
you
is.
got to build soils, and then you have to maintain
And
those
you got
soils. Just
and you
can't take
have
your
to
eye off
keep working it. I've heard that
them.
saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, that was such a great, and I'd forgotten until you just said that. You guys were doing this all in the middle of COVID.
yeah.
In fact, I remember a couple pretty ugly COVID stories. I mean, there was one, I think it was a contractor, and I think you told me this story. We were standing up by the clubhouse, and somebody on the contracting team, or one of the contractors, had gotten COVID, gotten through it, but lost the taste for what,
Oh yeah,
chocolate and milk?
yeah. Chocolate and milk.
It's just, I had never heard that until you told me that from,
Yeah.
I wonder if he's ever gotten it back. Are you still in touch?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, it that was a different time.
Yeah, it was definitely a different time. I mean, it was tough, and you're doing all this stuff. I mean, it was really strange because you guys got into it. You were starting the process before COVID happens,
Yeah.
and then COVID happens. And the one thing too that you guys, I know you told me, is that you had ordered a lot of the pipe and a lot of the stuff in right before everything went through the roof.
Yeah.
And luckily, and I think it was you that said, but the PVC for the irrigation would have been what, another $1 million if you'd.
Oh, that conversation was the copper wire.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and so
It's just so stupid. Yeah.
so we would the guys from our distributor, they were telling us, they're like, look, copper is really cheap right now. You might want to order as much as you can now because no one's doing anything. No, everything's shut down. And I was like, oh, okay. So I would try to come up with the amounts and stay on budget as best as possible. And we're getting this wire in, and we're one aught wire. We had five spools of that. I think they were 1,000 feet. And
Wow.
yeah, think about that. If you know the price of one aught wire right
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
we got a bargain. And
Yeah.
a lot of it was just planning. And once again, it goes back to that team. We had a GPS rover at a construction grade, and we'd go out there and map out where the wire would go, and I'd have 100% accurate runs. And I'd add on, I think I only had to add on 7% to my runs, and
Just
we were
nothing really, if you think about
yeah,
it.
and we were hitting our marks uh, every time. No splices. We did that entire wire project with no splices except for the ends, terminating the ends. So
How do you hit that? I mean, I
it was
explain
just
that.
It was just planning, just going out, remeasuring. The guys on the GPS are the assistants. We're running the program, and just the guys were really good with it. And then that translated into drainage. We were able to take
Follow it, yeah.
that, that tool and really hone in on. I mean, we knew exactly how much per foot drainage cost to put in. So we were hitting our budget numbers, and we knew, we knew where we could save. We knew kept the contractors in line, if you will. McDonald and Sons was wonderful. Leibold,
Yeah.
it's one of the greatest contractors, irrigation companies there is. But um, we were able, and then we're working with the contractors with our data because we also surveyed every single thing that was in the ground. And no point, I think no point was more than 6 feet away. So I think we ended up with, 600,000 points, data points, GPS.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you learn all this? I mean, where did you get the experience to be able to
So,
do that well?
um, so I'd always listen. I listened to some like motivational podcasts, if you will. And so, I always, these guys would say, nothing's impossible. Nothing's impossible. It just, uh, no one is smarter than you. Just people have spent more time doing it.
Right.
And so I kind of took that to heart. I'm like, well, we can try. If we put an honest effort in, we can try this and try to learn this. One of the assistants, Dugan Cannon, actually had a background in engineering. And so
I didn't know that.
we get the software, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know what this stuff is." I'm like, "You're the guy. You're the guy.
Yeah, you're on that spot
Yeah,
right
you're
there.
the guy." And so we it incredible payoff. And by the end, so that project started, and we started mapping everything. By the end of it, we were actually going to TopCon and pointing out issues with the software, and one of them was called the donut hole effect. So in that high-end GPS software, you can't have a circle within a circle. You can't have
Right.
a zone inside of a zone. And
Right.
it's all the time in ag GPS, but you can't do it in that engineering GPS system. And on a golf course, you have to have circles within circles. So we had to work around that. We had to work in layers, and it became this whole other thing to learn. And I think Dugan knew all of it.
So
And he
explain that. So you were trying to get the circle within the circle, the
yeah,
donut, but the software didn't allow you to do that.
Yeah, and we
You
would
had to do workarounds on their software to accomplish what. So this software wasn't obviously designed for a golf course construction.
no, it was designed for construction, cut, fill,
Yeah.
land grading,
residential, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely commercial grade, but it was cool stuff. You could see our entire property when we got done on the software. You can actually take the entire golf course, turn all the layers on. You can see it in 3D space.
Really?
Yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah. So the whole point was everything we did was 100 years. And so we always wanted a 100-year life, and what would get us to 100 years? And so the software, collecting all those data points. Well, if Congressional ever wanted to do a renovation, well, the contractor can just take that file and put it in, and they know exactly cut fills, give us accurate numbers. They know where everything is. And when those guys do big tournaments, they know where every single irrigation line is. The last thing my R&D department I had there, the last thing I was looking into was using virtual reality goggles, and there was a program, and it was out of Europe. Sorry, but let me get this turned on. It was out of Europe. You put the glasses on and you load your map in, and you can see where all the lines are, and you can literally walk around, and you can see where the pipes are in the ground, and it shows you through the goggles. So if you wanted to go look for something, you didn't ever have to dig. You could actually see it
This was part of the software?
You could use the data we collected, and you could put it into that company's software.
Oh, I see. So you actually had to manually do all that, but adjusted to their software.
Yeah, and so
that's fascinating. That's brilliant, actually. I never heard that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's used in big cities. Will use it. New York, I think they have a version of it, and the whole point was to cut down on mistakes made for
yes, of course.
tournament.
Yeah,
and,
or anything.
There's miles and miles of infrastructure there, so it was really thinking about what's next and what's coming down the road, and how do we prepare for it. Robotics, automation, you're going to need some type of accurate map for that, and so they have the data for that. And it wasn't a necessity only for that time. It was a necessity for the foreseeable future. I'll put it to you that way.
Would you be able to do the goggles and track a break in an irrigation line? I mean, if you were to, were you able to track, something like that? I mean, is it that practical, or is it really more of a construction oriented focus?
So it'd be more for if you were building grandstands.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you wouldn't put something, yeah.
And then if you actually had to trace something out, you could hook up to the wire and know where that is. But as far as layout and where the grandstands are going to go, you could literally just go out there, and you can still do it with the rover. You can have it with you, and you have the tablet, and you can walk around with that. But as far as putting the goggles on and seeing, I mean, you could see the drain lines in the greens. You could see the drainage in the fairways. There's miles and miles of infrastructure out there, and you going around with those goggles on, you could see all of it.
And where did this idea come from? I mean, that's brilliant. I love this idea. Was there somebody? Go ahead.
No, I was just looking into.
So this was you.
Yeah. I was just looking into what's next, and what can make us more efficient. I think by the end of my time there, I became kind of more aware of efficiencies, and for myself as well, and being more disciplined and not getting too granular on things, and just really thinking, what can I put in someone's hands with a low learning curve and can get them to the goal they want to get to. And that was the point of all of it. And that GPS, I mean, those guys, they can go out anytime, they can find anything anywhere, and down to, I think it's 0.01 inches. So it's pretty accurate.
Was this whole process, did it slow you down or did it speed you up?
No, the data collection definitely was
labor. Yeah, I was gonna say it had to be time consuming.
Yeah, we actually ended up renting another rover and setup, because the way Congressional is laid out, the front nine and back nine are on opposite sides of the property. So we actually had to rent another one, and then the data would have to be brought in at the end of the day, uploaded to the computer, so that those guys didn't overlap. And the guys,
perfect, of course, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, the guys would have to make sure if the rowers communicated as well, but you didn't want to start in point 1000 and your partner start on point 1001.
Right,
And
that would be kind
yeah,
of stupid,
they're going
waste of
back and
time.
forth,
Yeah.
and then when you put it back on the computer, all the data's jumbled. And
Wait a second.
yeah, yeah. So there was definitely learning curves into it. It you know that was an investment that was made, and it was a smart investment.
There
And
was an ROI on this, you got a return? You
yeah,
think it, yeah, so it was money well spent.
yeah, for that situation, yes, yeah.
Do you
And
know anybody since you guys did all this that's, followed that? Or I'm sure you've talked to 100 people,
well, I know,
superintendents.
I think Augusta does a version of it.
That's probably true, yeah. Well, they do
I don't,
everything fancy.
yeah, I don't know if they, I don't know how they do
Yeah.
it. We accuracy within reality was obviously what we were trying to do, but I think we did all of it in house, and
Did it
that
ever bog you down to the point that you were falling behind the contractors or anything like that?
no, we made notes of areas that we needed to go back to and work on, and that was good off season work or winter work or rainy day work.
Yeah.
Dugan, he had hours getting the maps right, and then everything. Larry Collins also helped with that as well, getting everything cleaned up. But in the end, I mean, you can't ask for a better setup. And but that worked for that situation. I do not need an I don't have a need here
Right.
for that.
Yeah.
And
Well, you're not doing the same thing now, obviously.
no, but I have a version. I use the Pogo, this from Stevens Water. You just need to know where things are and keep a record of it, and that's the best way to do it. And we don't need anything fancy. The ROI is just, for us, it's not there.
Right.
And
No, that
the
makes sense.
learning curve too, that's tough.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be bogged down by CAD all day. So
Yeah, you'd almost have to have a degree just for that, but you
yeah,
sound like you almost had one in
yeah,
congressional.
yeah. Although I do have CAD on my computer now, and I do use it, but
Of course you
I don't
do.
want to deal with that stuff. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. But
Um,
I mean, again, you're bringing the work that you guys do into a very modern era with a
yeah.
lot of computer, I mean, eventually it'll be AI as well.
Oh,
Uh,
well, that's already started. I mean,
yes, exactly.
we're already getting there. And I I watch I have to admit I watch a show on YouTube called Barn Talk, and they're farmers, and the guy interviews farmers, really successful guys, and they're doing 10, 20,000 acres. And listening to these guys talk, now it's different from us, but I think there's some overlap from a superintendent to a college football coach to a
Yeah.
farmer. We superintendents have to wear so many different hats, but the one thing that stuck with me was a guy. He said we do 10,000 acres, and the problem with today's agriculture is we're incredibly efficient. And when you go to look at expanding, it's not buying the field next to the farm. It that if you buy that field next to the farm, it's going to cost you money because your operation is so efficient. And when you
Right.
look at scaling, and if you're efficient on 10,000 acres, your number is probably 1,500 acres that you need to add to be profitable.
Yeah.
So I really thought about that. I'm like, well, how does that apply to golf course maintenance? And I feel like post 2008, everyone has gotten more efficient, and there's just not inefficiencies anymore. And if there are, you're working to fix them.
Yeah.
How do we set up the golf course the most efficient way with the least amount of people? And when you start scaling and you talk about what's coming down the road next, and you talk about robots, well, what does that look like? How does that fit in the business plan? And does it what scale do the robots need to work at to be
To
with the
bring you a
same,
return on your
yeah,
investment. Yeah.
get your returns? And I look at the small robots that they look like little Roombas, and they work for certain areas, but you're not going to mow 80 acres with these little things.
No, no, you're not. It's
And
not
or
effective.
it's going to be a massive investment. And right now, I don't know if it's there yet. For some people, it works out wonderful, but
For certain areas, for sure.
yeah, for certain areas. But AI, that's coming down. I just started using the Greenkeeper app with the models and the machine learning, a little different than AI, but uh, you want to talk about some incredible
Yeah.
uh, software there.
Technology. Yeah.
Yeah, and we never had that. And you can put your future sprays in there and see what it's going to do to your growth potentials, and amazing. And you know that stuff is available in ag too. It's just now getting to us. And
Well, it started in ag. I mean, think about it. GPS was ag. I mean, most of this technology starts where the money is, and that's ag.
yeah,
We're small potatoes, no pun intended, compared to those
yeah,
guys. But that's where all that technology has really been started. But it's kind of cool that you're watching Barn Talk
yeah,
because there's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff there that, I mean, you see that in all sorts of, certainly technology in agronomy. I mean, just soil science. You're seeing all that
yeah.
that innovation coming in from those guys. But yeah, I mean, so how efficient will we ever get to? Will we ever be able to work on a staff of 10 or 5 or what? I don't know. Where does this all take us?
I don't know. It's interesting to see. I mean, the one part that I look at is Elon Musk doesn't have a self-driving car. So banking on for us, think about it. It has to trickle down
Hmm.
through the industrial system to get to us, and it has to go through ag, and then eventually, once again, when the process of building all this is efficient enough where you can introduce it into golf and they can still be profitable, um, how long is that going to be? And I was really hopeful for it for a while, but once again, once you start seeing the cost on the equipment and the cost on adding that to the property, and you're just thinking through the most basic thing, what do you do after it rains? Well, that person on the mower makes the decision to not go through a mud puddle or go through standing waters,
Right.
only know the highs. And that application for the autonomous mowers may start with the courses that are best fit for it, and then slowly trickle down to more complicated golf courses when the technology and obstacle avoidance becomes a little more streamlined, and uh, they can process it faster. But
And be more efficient.
yeah, and be more efficient. I don't know where there's always handwork to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if the staffs will be 50% of what they are today, but there probably will be a reduction.
Do you find this generation, your generation, accepting universally this kind of technological growth? I mean, did
Well,
you have any pushback when you were doing this over at Congressional?
no, we were all very
Everybody
accepting.
was cool about it. Everybody was
I'm actually,
excited.
I feel like I'm going the opposite way.
You're getting old, dude.
I'm
That's
getting
what
old,
happens.
and
Wait till you get to be my age. You won't know how
yeah,
to use a phone anymore.
I I look at some of this stuff, and the time is the constant that I judge all this technology by. How
Yeah.
much time is needed to maintain it? And none of this stuff runs itself.
No.
Someone has to be there. Someone has to be there to oversee it. And this most simple thing, I mean, think of an Excel data sheet in our spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You have to key in those numbers. And so, it'd be nice to automate that, but when that system goes down, that's also time you have to spend to fix it and then recover whatever was there. And so that goes across the whole technology spectrum. How much time do you actually need to interpret the data, understand it, and are you really going to make a decision on it? And that's where I kind of have gotten to is, what is valuable? I call them 1 minute jobs, 5 minute jobs, 10 minute jobs, and 30 minute jobs. Is it really worth my time for 30 minutes to look at something I may not use?
Right.
And
Well, how do you know that until you look at it, though?
yeah, how do you know then? But the more times you look at it, and it, this is the hard part, they're big investments. And
Yeah.
when you look at it and you say, okay, I don't think I'm going to use this that often, it's probably not worth the investment. That GPS rover we talked about, uh, working through, I had to think through, okay, and I had to present this to my boss. Why are we spending the money on this? And are we going to use it after we're done with the golf course? And thinking through it, yes, you're going to use it after. and it's going to become incredibly valuable for the tournaments and the championships, I should say.
To do all the things we were just talking about. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So the ROI is there for years to come. And, I think that's how we have to look at technology. There's a time everyone had to have a drone. Well, how often do you use those drones now?
Right.
You
Exactly.
know,
To
it's,
take pictures for, for whatever,
yeah,
for your website
yeah,
so
it's a
you can show
great
the
way to take a
members.
picture. I have to admit, it's a great way to take a
It is a
picture,
great way to take a picture.
but
One.
it's not what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I'm not getting, UPS is still running their trucks, delivering my packages
Yeah, I kind of don't really want UPS to drop packages.
yeah.
Half the bloody stuff is fragile anyway. I don't really
Yeah.
want, or I don't
Um,
want these things flying around the house or the barn or whatever.
yeah, it's, and it's practical too.
Yeah.
The most practical way to use it. And then there's also the part, once again, learning curves. Can I put this in anyone's hands and have them be successful?
Right.
That's the other criteria I use, is it's the time invested and the amount of success that another person will have.
Yeah.
And that's important.
I mean, that's kind of what I was trying to get at with that question is that, if everybody was enthusiastic about it, but, again, you're dealing with technology that does take some serious, brain power and maybe even some education and, not to be critical, but, we're not dealing, with crew people. We're not dealing with, PhDs,
Yeah.
or guys that went to MIT, so there's got to be a point at which, either somebody takes that, leadership and that real excitement. I mean, there's a number of superintendents that we see all over Twitter and, that are really the innovators in technology, and
Yeah.
really came out and started really jumping on the first thing, the first guys in. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you guys were pretty much that over at Congressional when you were doing that. I mean, that still had to have taken a fair amount of time to bring that software in and quickly figure out, is this going to really work for us? Or, how much time do you waste before you pull the trigger or say no? I mean,
Well,
how do you make
we
that
had
decision?
to, we vetted it to the extreme. I mean, we had they loaned us one. The company actually loaned us one, I think for a week. And we went out and we tested it. We tested what the practice would look like and what software did we need. And we got all the information we needed. And we went through a live exercise for a week
Wow.
of how this would work. And those things are not cheap, by the way. So
No, I'm sure.
you're looking at the investment, you're looking at the plan from start to finish. And um, I had to convince Pete of this too. And I'm like, and he was on board from the beginning and he wanted something like this too. But it was finding the right one and how it's going to fit into our daily lives and how we're going to live with it, how we're going
Yeah.
to live it. And
And they had to justify the cost. He had to justify the cost up the ladder. So,
yeah,
there had to be a whole lot of conversation going back and forth on that.
yeah. And that honestly, it, GPS has been huge in the golf course industry. It's been
Mhm.
huge for cart control. It's been huge for spraying applications. It's been
Yeah, it's
huge.
everywhere now.
Yeah, and so it was. I'm not saying it's an easy sell. It was an appropriate tool for us to have at
Yeah.
the time. And once again, I mean, not everyone's going to have one, but uh, that was. It turned into a lifesaver. It's a
Yeah.
lot of the
You
time.
brought up an interesting thing. I mean, carts were probably the first thing on the golf course that were GPS driven. I
Yeah,
mean, there's probably very few golf courses that don't have GPS carts going out on them, so keep them off stopping the, the cart from going up to the green or,
yeah,
on the fairway or whatever it is. I mean, there's very few places that I've ever gone now that don't have that. So
yeah,
that conversation with, an owner or a board probably was a little bit easier for you guys because the technology wasn't so foreign.
yeah. And yeah, everyone understood it. Everyone understood. You know,
It's
even
value.
yeah, Google Maps.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good point. I mean, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but
How do you live without that? I mean, we've all had this conversation a dozen times in the last couple of years. How did we get around before we had that phone that had Google Maps on it?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I honestly, I mean, I traveled for years before I ever got a cell phone, and I pulled out paper net maps.
yeah,
Probably hit a couple trees on the way, or whatever. It's just a nightmare
yeah.
trying to figure out where you're going.
But that time there, that was. I mean, that wasn't the only thing we did. We worked on. I had some other projects working on um, basically controlling fans on the golf course. That was another project. Another project involved spraying. We were working with some
GPS spraying?
GPS spraying. Not what as we know it, but we're working on some newer stuff. And there are a lot of great ideas that came out of the time there, and uh, that was fun. It was fun to see how much work actually goes into building a product and making it work too. And
Yeah.
we also looked at other technologies too. We looked at cameras, we looked at sensors, we looked at all anything you could imagine to make the operation successful and streamlined and efficient. And uh, at the end of the day, it came down to, like I said before, is when do you have time to look at all this data?
Yeah, that's exactly the right question. I don't
And
know.
the one realization for a young superintendent as myself was this is an art.
Yeah.
There's
Good.
no number. You can't manage this thing from a spreadsheet. And you can't manage it from a computer generated model. And those things help, they're aids, but everyone, the guys that I looked up to and my role models and my mentor, it's an art. It's an art at the end of the day. And I
And
think,
there's a great level of intuition involved.
yeah,
And intuition is rare in any group of people. I mean, having that level of intuition, and the folks that don't have it, just work twice as hard to do it. And what you're doing is you're talking about bringing in some technological intuition to help you get through the days. I mean, think
yeah,
about it. I mean, and even the people that are intuitive and have been doing it forever, know where every little nook and cranny is. This kind of technology only makes their life better and easier.
yeah,
And maybe they even get a chance to have dinner at home one night or
yeah,
5 nights.
yeah, yeah. And that's it's how you apply it. And that at the end of the day,
Right.
it's how do you use it? And look at the internet. It's how do you use it? And
Yeah. Well, I'm not
there's
sure if
no,
we want to have that conversation, but
yeah,
some of the answers might not be what we want to hear. But yeah, how do you use it?
yeah,
And there's a lot of value to it. But you think about it. I mean, you're relatively young in this business, and I asked this question of a lot of superintendents. What do you think is the best piece of technology that's come down in your limited number of years as a golf course superintendent? What's the one piece of technology that really you can't live without now, that you were just like, wow, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened?
ooh, I think the GPS sprayers are.
Yeah.
I still think that is right now. It's still number one. Uh, Number two, I'm where this model stuff is going
Yeah.
for. Uh, I think that's going to explode. Um,
Yeah. It's only going to get better.
yeah, and the sensors, they're getting there, but GPS sprayers I think has been the biggest part, and then the integration. John Deere has done a phenomenal job integrating um, the operation into their software. And once again, back to barn talk, you have those big farms,
Yeah.
they are going all John Deere because of that software.
Yeah.
And because the planner needs to communicate to the tractor needs to communicate to the central farm, and the guys running the farm need to know the right seed is going on the right field, and
At the
it's
right
just,
time. Yeah.
yeah,
The conditions.
yeah, that software is going to explode in the
Yeah.
next 5 years, and that'll probably rival GPS, honestly. But yeah, that where all that's going, uh, that's probably been the most impressive.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's come stuff. Let me change gears a little bit, because you showed me before we got started what you did to get this job, and I got to tell you, man, it's I spent a lot of my day in marketing, and as you can imagine, owning and running a business, but you showed me what you put together for your quote unquote resume for
Yeah,
getting the job at Columbia Country Club after the years at Congressional, and you used Flip Snack, which I'd never heard of.
yeah,
But when you showed that to me, this afternoon, I mean, that's marketing 101 there, man. It's brilliant. Talk a little bit about that, and how did you even find this, And you know what you did tell me was that you put a ton of time into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Surprised I'm surprised Nikki, your wife, still talks to you, but
You
uh, but,
know?
but I mean, I have to say, it was as beautiful a presentation as, and I've worked with a lot of young guys, as you know, over my career, helping them get into the next job and putting together resumes. I actually was a headhunter before I even started Earthwork, so I helped a lot of folks, you know, do the presentation. But I don't know that I've ever seen anything that impressive.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And talk a little bit about it. Tell everybody what it is, and you know, and again, anything that we can do to help the next guy down the road, you know, get the big job. I mean, explain it a little bit. And I wish we could show it, but we can't. But it's all right.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's good to show, but I want to keep that one a little private. So the whole idea, uh, this job, I, so for one, it's 20 minutes from Congressional, and
Right,
I wouldn't have to move. And
close to home. Yeah,
when you're, you know, I was a superintendent under a director. I wanted to get my next job, and when you're looking at something close to home and close to your friends and your family, or my family that was here, and my wife's family, you know, you're gonna go all in to get
yeah.
that
It-
job. And this is an awesome job, and it's I have to say, it's an amazing group of members. It's an amazing team running this place, and this is my lottery ticket. This is my
yeah.
winning lottery ticket here. So
Did
I
you
have
know that before you got there? I mean, did you have that inkling, or was this
no,
found
no,
post?
no.
Okay,
The winning lottery ticket was I didn't have to move or go
right.
uproot
Gotcha on that. Yeah,
my wife and everything and move somewhere she's never lived before. But I was used to that. I was used to all those places I've worked at. I was
yeah.
used to moving, and you know, I wanted to stay home. Uh, so with that as the carrot, where I could stay here, I needed to market myself to a group of individuals that I'd never met before, and
And they'd never met you.
never met me. But so, what is the fastest, most efficient way to get to know someone? And it's a portfolio. And so, coming up with the idea, I would talk to Pete about it, and we were sitting in his office, and he's like, "You need to make this thing the best anyone's ever seen." And once again, going back to that mentality that nothing's impossible, it's only the learning curve is, you can't be afraid of it. You got to be confident in yourself and your abilities and all that. And I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. And uh, he's like, well, it sounds like you have 3 weeks, or not 3 weeks. I think it was like 2 months to get it done. And um, you know, whatever. I don't know the timeline or
Some window, but yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
some window. And but so we're sitting there, and he's looking. He's like, well, there's a brochure on his desk, and he's like, your portfolio needs to look like this, and tosses it over to me.
I
And
hope
this,
it wasn't an Earthworks portfolio.
no, no, no.
That may not have cut it.
Yeah,
But anyway,
here's something done by a firm in New York with
yeah,
perfect photos
yeah.
and colors, you know, that blend together. And I'm like, I can do that.
And you know how much a portfolio like that costs a company like mine or any company? I mean, that's big, serious business
Yeah,
in marketing. I mean, that's go ahead. I want you to tell the story, but it's you know, it's big stuff.
yeah. And I had, the software is big money.
I
So
bet. Yeah.
I didn't have that kind of money, and just talking it over with my wife, we had to buy an edge printer so that you could actually print something that would look like the actual booklet. So we invested in that. The software I got was called Affinity Publisher, and it's magazine grade publishing software. And
Right.
all it is Word on steroids.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
literally, it is Word on steroids. You can
Yeah.
do anything you want. So it took me, I think, 3 days. When I say 3 days, I mean 24-hour days to learn.
Right.
Uh,
Yes, you
so
said
there,
two
yeah,
hundred hours, but yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
So I had 200 hours in this whole thing. Learning it, I did not include in the 200 hours. So I think it took me 36 hours to learn the software. YouTube was a big help. And
Yeah.
I finally would go through it, and I could design the magazine through the tutorial. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. And so I started working on it. And, one of the days I brought in the printed sheets to Pete, and I'm like, hey, this is what I've got so far. And he's looking at it, and he's like, you did this? Like, yeah, yeah, I did this. He's like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was on like your same copy paper and all that, nothing fancy. I'm like, what's going to look a lot better in the booklet? But these are just the loose sheets I printed at home. So I kept on working on it. And then, you know, the other thing too with a lot of this is using your network. And that's when I really tapped into my network and asked for help. And that was, you know, when you're going for a job, you want to use your network and you want to surround the club and really try to learn as much as you can about it and get help from people. And little did I know, um, a friend that I have, husband's mom, was an editor for a big magazine company in New York.
And you didn't know this.
I didn't know this. And so I got the portfolio done on the software, and then I used FlipSnack. Uh, that's how I had people, well, I'd have that person look at it and proofread it.
Yeah.
And then I had another friend that was a lawyer, a copyright lawyer. So they're used to reading all the time. So I had those two reading it, or one would proofread it, and then my wife would proofread it before we, of course, we sent it to anyone.
Yeah, of course.
So, but the editor, the magazine editor, it was interesting. I'd get 10 little dots every week. I'd get 10 dots, and it was fix this, fix that, move this, different color, different picture, work on color, work on schemes, all this, and it really opened my eyes to how magazines are made. And
Yeah,
um,
that's big business, and it's a lot of work. Little
yeah,
details, little tiny details that can ruin it all.
yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
and yeah, and the content had to capture people's attention. They had to keep flipping, and that was the
Right.
idea, was to keep a person flipping through. You could look at the pictures and get to know me by just looking at the pictures and look
Yeah.
at what I can do. And uh, you know, by the end of it, we had something or I had something really good, and I had a really good, you know, group helping and giving their input. Now I never sat face to face with them, but it was cool. It was really cool. Like
So
200 hours.
when you said you went to your network, are you talking about the people like your friend's mom and a lawyer, or you were talking about some of the guys in the business that you'd
So
worked
I
with?
worked with her. I worked with that person before, and she moved away. She was up in Connecticut, and um, she loved that kind of stuff. And so I
Yeah.
sent it to her, asked her if she could help, and lo and behold, you know, there's that. And um, you know, it was just sending it around, and then you finally, I would bring it to Pete and like, hey Pete, this is what I got. I remember getting the first. It was all, the crazy thing is, look, I'm not saying this is how it has to be done, but I mean, even the paper was custom, picking out weights, picking out gloss,
Yeah,
picking
of
out.
course.
It's nuts, but
You're a marketing manager now, man.
yeah, yeah. I
You
might,
could have a whole new career here. You don't have to do this grass cutting stuff anymore.
yeah. And well, here's the other thing too is, you know, I'd have people ask me, wow, I can't believe you spent 200 hours doing that. Well, it's a story about me,
Yeah.
and I want to show, I'm very proud of my experiences, and I'm very proud of the people I've gotten to work with. You know, I didn't want to let any of those people down, and I didn't want to ever make it look like that, you know, it's just normal. You know, it's just a
Right.
normal guy applying for a job. And, you know, that's kind of the attitude I take with anything I do, is it's not impossible. We
I
can get
love
to,
the attitude.
yeah, and we can get to that goal. It may take some more time. It may take some personal investment, but we can
Yeah.
get there.
You know, there's nothing more frustrating than hearing somebody on your crew, staff that says, "Well, we've always done it this way, so we can't do that."
Yeah.
Well, of course
Yeah.
you can. There's always an answer. We haven't found it yet. You know, it's funny when you were showing me that, and I'm going to show my age, but you know, when I got into business, and obviously marketing is a very big part of what I do, we had a software publishing package that Microsoft put out called Publisher, and it
Yeah.
was garbage. I mean, it was crap. But at
Yeah.
the time, compared to what you're working with, but at the time it was like magical. And we
Yeah.
could put together all sorts of, I mean, you could move pictures and make them bigger, smaller, you know, edit them. And, I mean, just the stuff that's available today for somebody that's just looking for a job. Like you said, it's there. It's all there. You just have to go find it. Let me ask you this. And again, I want to emphasize how impressive this portfolio was. I mean, it looked like a Madison Avenue level presentation. how much do you think that helped you get the job?
Well, I definitely think it made it more attractive. And it wasn't I think in the end, it wasn't the content. And this sounds a little crazy, but I don't think it was the content. I think it was the effort put into it that
Good point. Yeah, exactly.
was really the that people looked at because it was tailored to this job. Um, and it was custom to this job.
Yeah.
And so, if I didn't get this job, I'd have to rebuild it, which was going to be easy because you set it up. You
Yeah,
create,
once you have it, you have it. Yeah, but that's still.
but I think it was enough for everyone to look at. I got it into a couple people's hands, and then did you see, I heard some of the stories. Did you see what he made? Did you see? And I don't think in a boardroom they're not. I don't think they're looking for the shiny object. I think they're looking for the creativity,
The
the
culture.
vision, the
Yeah.
who the person is. Which putting that together. Um, I know for the general manager at the time, he's like, if someone can do that, then
What
that's
can he do out here? Yeah.
yeah. What can he do out here, and what can he do for the team, and really show them,
Yeah.
what's
Again, I spent a bunch of years, a good 5 years of my career, interviewing, teaching people how to interview. And one of the lessons in interviewing is always that when you're interviewing with somebody, for the most part, people don't know how to interview. And what
yeah,
they're looking for is reasons not to hire you because it gives them the out.
yeah,
So when you come in with a portfolio like that,
yeah,
when you come in with something that looks that impressive, I mean, there's no reason, there's no red flags. I mean, and like you said, and you've probably seen this even in your role as the superintendent now, somebody coming in and maybe they have a resume that was scribbled, badly on a computer and spelled wrong. I mean, you look at that kind of stuff and that attention to detail is the thing that's going to stick in your mind. And then when you come in with this incredible brochure on what your accomplishments are, it does say so much more than those accomplishments. It says this is the attention to detail and the creativity and the and the ability to look beyond what you're doing today. I mean, that's what that portfolio said to me when I saw it. I didn't, quite honestly, I didn't even read it. I didn't even look at the pictures. I just looked at how impressive it was, and then you started telling me you were doing it for 200 hours. That's exactly what these guys, and think about it, especially in a golf course business, if you're interviewing, especially with a board, members, these members are professionals for the most part. They're doctors and lawyers and businessmen, and and they've all probably been hiring people their whole careers, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a reason not to hire them. And when you come in with something like that, it's like, wow, I don't have a reason not to hire them. In fact, that's pretty damn impressive. It's just one of those little tricks of the trade that I think you can, anybody can take. I mean, you and I both know a number of guys that we like and worked with and should be successful, but they don't know how to interview and they don't know how to present themselves. And like you said, what that did was gave you that first impression. It gave you that step up on the next guy over that came in with a one-page resume and said, "Yeah, I worked at Bob's golf course, and it could have been the best golf course. It could have been Augusta. It could have been Pebble Beach, but here comes Matt Sumpter with a Madison Avenue level presentation that shows attention to detail, and hopefully they understood that you did it and you didn't go out and just spend some money with some marketing company to build it. And obviously you let them know that. But I think that's fascinating. I mean, I commend you. I did not know that. Obviously your resume is pretty impressive, but the ability to interview and the ability to present yourself to a group of people you don't know
Well,
is
I
half
have to
the
say,
job.
you hit on a great point there. It's the interview ability. I got to say, I don't think I was a very good. I don't think I interview well. That's one thing I know. I actually hired an interview coach, and through all of this, being a superintendent, you have to. I mean, you accept and you work on the weaknesses, and you know where your weaknesses are. And I knew one of my weaknesses was interviewing,
Yeah.
hired an interview coach. This lady was, I mean, she there was no holding back. From the and
She pummeled you, didn't she? She ripped
oh
you
yeah,
to
you want to talk
shreds.
about humbling. I mean, it was even from, so you had, so to get to work with her, I had to do a screening with her. So she screened the candidates that she would work with. And so it was, I think it was 20 or 30 minutes. And she would ask you just off the wall questions. Tell me, if you had a preference in color, what would it be and why? And, uh, I thought about it, and I would never forget. I said, well, blue, probably because, it's one of my favorite colors and whatnot. And she goes, why do you pause? Don't pause. Don't pause. No one cares. Answer the question, give an answer, and move on.
And don't look at the ceiling.
This is
Yeah.
now that was the first question she asked me. I'm like, this is going to be brutal from here on out.
Yeah.
And it was really about the preparation, how to answer the question, and move on and get through the content. And
Yeah. Don't give them a reason not to hire you.
yeah, yeah, that was one of her principles
Yeah.
too.
My favorite question when I was, training people to interview, you'd ask a question like, and you hear this in interviews all the time. Do you like to do paperwork? Well, it's a stupid question. Nobody likes to do paperwork. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a, and it's a lose-lose question, so you have to take a negative like that and turn it into a positive. So the answer would be something like, no, I hate to do paperwork, but because I hate to do it, I do it very quickly, very efficiently, so I don't have to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
But done. All right, off the table. Okay, that's no longer a negative question. So I got to find another reason not to hire them. And every question that, most people are bad interviewers. Every question that they ask are going to be looking for a reason not to hire you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't give them one. Don't hesitate. Don't look at the ceiling. If the answer is blue, tell them why. Boom.
Yeah.
But it's all like you started the conversation. It's all emotional.
Yeah.
It's all emotional, and your brain gets in the way of all that. And we get afraid of not being humble, and you can do this well with still keeping a level of humility, and doing it effectively. And obviously you did it, because first of all, like I said, that portfolio is damn impressive.
I think
I
that
might
was,
I might hire you part-time just to do some marketing stuff for me if you got some free time on the weekend. I
that-
don't know.
I think that was one of the important things with the interview coach. It was she would set you up for the mindset too of going in that room. And her point was, a lot of people will go into the room and they shut down because they're intimidated, and no one
Yeah.
likes to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
And she's
And they
like,
get nervous.
yeah, it makes them nervous. She's like, you gotta get over that. You gotta go in there and have a level of not care. And you just can't care. You gotta be in there, you gotta be excited, and don't worry about it.
And
It's
you
like,
got to you got to show them who you are. And yeah, I mean, it's like hanging out with some old friends, like, sitting here talking with you, and, it's not a hard conversation.
I think I wish I might go back. It reminds me. I wonder if those are still, because she would send recordings and you were supposed to watch yourself.
Oh
And you're
God.
supposed to listen to yourself talk. And I'll never forget. She's like, you're gonna want to watch this. This one's brutal. Look, just listen to you. Go to 10 minutes, 31
You
seconds.
sound like a moron. What do you watch this?
True. I don't know how I came out with any confidence after working with her, but I think she did well. And
Tear you down and build you back up.
yeah, and I had some other friends use her, and they got the job. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, nobody likes to see themselves on. I mean, I watch the podcast and I'm like, oh God, I said
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it's like, a couple of the guys on our team. Oh no, I never watch my podcast. I can't. I said, well, you got to. You got to know. How are you going to learn? It's just kind of funny. We're running out of time, but I do want to ask you, and I think we're going to have you back here, dude. But so you're now the boss. You've been there. How long you been there now? A year and a half? It's probably been longer. I don't even remember.
Longer. I'll be 3 years this June.
Oh my God. See what happens? COVID, everything, the time is lost. So you've been there, a number of years now. What was the biggest change going from working under a director's role, and especially somebody like Pete Wen? Now you're the big cheese. What's the big lesson, and what's the big change there? I mean, how good was it? How brutal was it? I'm looking for advice for the guy that takes the job, and what do you do in the first week of work? I mean, how many people do you look at and just fire immediately just to show them you're the boss?
No, I have to say, there were times when I'd ask Pete, look, I need to know what it's like. I need to be prepared, and we'd have honest conversations. And I think for people going into their first job is it's the being prepared, and you have to feel prepared to go for that job. And I'd always press Pete, even during the renovation. Hey, grill me on this, grill me. And I'm incredibly fortunate, and at times you have to make your own luck too. But I'm fortunate to I have the opportunity to be in boardrooms and be around tough discussions. And um,
At
I'm
your old jobs, you're talking now.
yeah, all the time leading up to this.
Yeah,
And
good.
I'm not only saying my previous job, but all the other jobs I've had the opportunity to be in there and see what the boardrooms are like and see how everything functions. And really, it was just asking uh asking for a little more responsibility from my boss, and uh working with him more. And I spent a lot of time with Pete, and I gotta credit him for a good portion of my success. But I had to be humble. I had to listen. I think that's number one for any young assistant, is just listen first. And especially in boardrooms, listen first and understand, um, before you speak. And that was always my intent. Anytime I was around Pete, I I begged him, as many board meeting or as many meetings in the boardroom as you can get me into. I swear I won't talk. I just want to listen. I want to watch you. Pete is one of the one of the best. I mean,
He's good. Yeah, he's
yeah,
smooth.
and it's I would just learn from him and how he handled the situations. And I would just I soaked it all in. I mean,
Yeah.
I soaked all that in. And I'm not saying I'm not saying the answer is to be a copy of him,
No, of course not. You have to
to
be you.
learn from him. But getting prepared um, for the next job and being the boss, it's all about the work you do before. And it's that work you put in, going to bed at night. And when I was a superintendent under a director, I went to bed at night wondering, um, if something that we did was going to work. Now I go to bed knowing what we did is going to work, and being more confident in that, because I got all that out. I got all that out in my time being a superintendent under a director. I took advantage of my time and really got all that out of my system. And but now the difference is, the buck stops here. I'm if a pin isn't in the right location, or it's a little bit off, I'm going to get an email. That's me. I'm the face of the operation, and I'm
Yeah.
the person they go to.
You're where the buck stops, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And
Were you prepared?
yeah, yeah. I had a great boss. I had great coworkers. I had great and when I say coworkers, I mean the guys I worked with, the assistants I worked with. I don't like the title thing. We all work
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
I had a great group. And then the guys that really kind of groomed me, I mean, go back to the Kinlock thing. Well, and there, when I was at Kinlock on my internship, I was there. Ryan Severett, now director at Woodmont.
One of the best.
Adam Miller, director at Berkeley Hall.
One of the best.
Lance Lauer,
Yeah.
he's out
Well,
in
I
Colorado
saw
now.
in Phoenix this year. He's great.
Yeah. And then Josh Saunders was
Yep.
my mentor for the summer. He's up at
We'll be at the Women's Open in a couple of weeks at Josh's place.
Yeah. And then Dusty, he's working
Yep.
at Landscape Supply now. And
Yeah, that's right. He is.
you want to talk about a group of guys that can mold you. And once again, you had to listen.
Yeah.
You had to listen to these guys and let them teach you. But you know
And now
that's
look at you sitting in that chair.
yeah, those
I
are the
knew
guys,
you when you were this big,
those are the guys I look up to, and I still look up to.
and they're part of your network, which is really critical. I
Yeah.
mean, and they're always there for you, which is one of the great things about that team that, you know, you came from. That whole,
Yeah.
I give, you know, Glenn Smickley all the kudos for that, building that Robert Trent Jones network that I call. And, but, you know, what a great group, just the names you just mentioned, and there's dozens more, quite honestly. But yeah, you got a great, you know, group of people that you followed there, which is wonderful.
You know, every single one of them, they're very humble, and
Yeah.
no one is about them, and it's great to reach out and
Yeah. And
and talk.
even your brother superintendent over at Congressional now is running TPC Potomac, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think, you know, he just had a son and he named it after me. You knew that, right?
yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he named
Yeah.
his son after me, which I was
Yeah.
very honored by. And
Yeah, I think the first bottle he had was Earthworks. I think it was.
probably, probably.
Yeah.
It's,
I didn't know Yeti made bottles, but you know,
yes,
that
yeah. Well,
good
you know,
for you.
we you know,
Good for
for
you.
my godson, I had to do something proper, you know. It was only fair. But Matt, I hate to tell you this, but we got to run. But
All good.
yeah, I'm gonna get you back because there's a lot more. I have a laundry list of stuff that we started talking about, or I wanted to talk about, we didn't get to. But I love the whole conversation, and you know, certainly the attitude that there's nothing that you can't do, and that if somebody's listening to this and they don't pick that up, then they're brain dead, because that's, I mean, that you can't get a better lesson in life than that, you know, you can do anything. And look what you did at Congressional. I mean, I didn't know half of that story. I mean, I was, you know, there a lot while you guys were doing that, but I didn't realize that you know, you had put that much time into all that technology, getting that
Yeah.
and by the way, you guys did an amazing job. I mean, Congressional is one of those properties that if you had been dropped in the middle of that course and didn't see the clubhouse, you would not know what course you were on. That's how the transition of that property was, and it's brilliant. And even though I still talk to Pete about the construction, you know, the construction problems that he has in the soil, and we're still trying to fix some of those little things. You know, well, he used the term the other day when I talked to him, but you know, just trying to get through all that, you know, really compacted soils where all the equipment drove on.
Those are blight. Dozer blight. That's what it
Dozer
is.
blights. I'm sorry. Yeah, of course I knew that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's still fighting dozer blight after, you know, 3 years. But yeah, what a beautiful job. I mean, and if nobody's, you know, if somebody has a chance to get to see that property, you know, it's just, Andrew did just such a phenomenal job, Andrew
Yeah.
Green, and it's just you did a great job. I mean, you know, you deserve where you are, and you've done a hell of a job, and I hope you can be there forever and have a bunch more kids, and most importantly, I hope you can spend a lot more time with your wife, because you absolutely need to. So get those guys working. I will be down in you know, hopefully in a few weeks. I actually have to go out to the PGA tournament. You're not going out to Valhalla, are you?
No.
All right. Yeah, we'll be out there. We're working with those guys, so we're doing some sponsorship, but I look forward to that. But I hope and wish you the best of luck, and with everything. And you know, you can always call me, and if I can help you, I'm going to do that. But thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And my friends, that is the Earthworks podcast. If you're not signed up, please do, so we can show you that we're going to have cool people on the next week. And I can promise you, you will always learn something. And there's something to be had. Like, you know, nothing is impossible, right? Thank you, Matt.